How are you?
I'm good, Mr. Murray. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. Are you in your office?
Yes, I'm in my office, and
so you're going to attend the budget?
No, I'm not. I think we are sending about 35.
Yeah, the same with us. Also, very limited amount. So it's basically the economic cluster.
Yes. They're saying that I've not been to that chamber. They're saying it's small, eh?
Yeah, but you know, we actually needed you to look the minister in his eyes when he need to give us money. He must look you in your eyes, and you must have that non-verbal communication. Say, give us money either or.
Yes. No, no, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity with him at some point. See, there is Brian. May I suggest to flight the agenda for the day, so that we see what
we'll do such.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
You know, I have a proposition. I hope I'm not going to get a resistance from your colleagues. Okay. Oh, okay. The issue is not arising today. All right. Colleagues, this is the agenda for the meeting. The reason I will not call you to move it for adoption is because we adopted it when we adopted the program for the quarter until the end of the quarter. So I've not introduced any amendment that would require your attention and consideration. So is as it was adopted by our meeting colleagues. So the first item, opening and welcome. I welcome all of you colleagues, but before I could do that, Brian, do we have the quorum? I've not checked the attendance.
Correct, Chair, we do.
We do have the quorum.
Yes.
I welcome all the colleagues. I welcome, I'm not too sure if the minister is in the meeting, but let me say I welcome the minister, whether present or in her absentia. I welcome the DM, whether present or in his absentia. I've not looked at the record. I welcome the HOD and other members of the defense, of the military veterans department. Our focus today is DMV and DMV only, if I look at the items. Having said that, let us note apologies. Brian, do you have apologies?
Indeed, we do. We have got an apology from Ngosi Cebekulu, who is unable to attend due to a KZN ESCO House of Traditional Leaders meeting. We have an apology from Mr. Mafanya. We also have an apology from Minister Thandi Modise, who's unable to attend due to a cabinet meeting that is also sitting at this time. We also have an apology, Chair, from Ms. Biekas. She will be joining us late, but she will be joining us in the next 10 minutes or so.
Good. Is the DM in the meeting? I don't know what's wrong with my system here on the side. Let me I don't know.
Not as yet, Chair. I've not admitted him into the meeting. I've not received the...
Oh, you would know. All right, you would know. All right, no, thank you so much. All right, right. So those are the apologies from our side. Members, are there any apology that we may not be aware of? It doesn't look like. right?
Chair, just Thomas Walters, apology for you.
Yes, okay, no, thank you so much, Mr. Murray. I'll tell you a story one day, maybe now. A colleague walked into a meeting, and so this item came up of apologies. So he looked around and he realized that a colleague of his was not in the meeting. And then he passed his apologies. But minutes of him doing that, the colleague walked into the meeting. Yeah.
That's now a loyal colleague, eh?
You are right. I agree with you. It's what you call keeping each other's back. I don't know if it's a right.
Yeah. You cover your back.
Oh, I see. Yes. That's a term. No. He is an alternate, so it's understandable, Mr. Murray. Are there any apologies, Director General?
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
And good morning to the members.
Yes.
From our side, the team that was a position for the committee is here. I'm having Mr. Siengo, Mr. Samba, Mr. Matsafu, and myself.
All right. So you don't have the members of the audit committee? Not today?
No, Chair.
All right. Okay. All right. So we thank you very much for attendance, colleagues. Now let's then move to the first item. As the minister, the DPM is still not in the meeting, Brian, so that
no, Chair.
No, not yet. All right.
I'm admitting him now. Chair is coming into the meeting.
Okay, let's wait for him because I want him to move the item.
Chair, just a question from my side while we're waiting.
Yes.
Will we talk about that invitation that Brian has sent through to us, maybe before we end the meeting?
Oh, okay. Yes, Brian, let's bring that item up. And my apologies, it's a correspondence from the minister. Eh? All right, let's bring it up just before the minutes, or after the minutes. It doesn't matter.
No,
right, no, thank you so much, Mr. Murray, for reminding me. DM, good morning.
Honorable Chairperson, good morning, and to committee members, honorable members of the committee, good morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. DM, I've welcomed the colleagues and your officials. You were not in the meeting by then, so
yes.
Yes.
So I struggled a bit. My apology with my gadget here.
Okay. But I felt we should wait so that you introduce the item. The minister is in cabinet, so the responsibility is yours. Over to you at the end.
Chairperson, thank you very much for this opportunity to yourself and honorable members of the committee. This morning, Chair, we are having the DG of the Department of Military Veterans and management of the department appearing before the committee as scheduled to present on the review and implementation of the department's audit action plan. The committee members would remember that in the previous meetings, there were concerns around the performance of the department on a number of areas. And as part of assisting the department to improve the performance of the department, the audit action plan was focused on by the committee to say that the department must make sure that they review their audit action plan and that they deposit that plan with the portfolio committee, and that on a quarterly basis, the portfolio committee will keep track with progress in implementing the matters, or rather solutions to the matters raised by the Auditor General. So the DG is ready to present. And after that presentation, Chair, we will make comments, but we are happy to get the DG to share their report with the committee. Thank you very much, Chairperson and committee members.
Thank you very much, DM. DG, your information is very detailed. It's detailed. It will occupy us for the next 1 hour to 1.5 hours.
Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to Minister in her absentia, and greetings to the Deputy Minister, and greetings to the portfolio committee members and my colleagues at large. Indeed, we are here to do the presentation as per the request. I would like us to take this opportunity to welcome our presenter for today, Zinhle Kasamba, and I hope that the presentation can be flouted so that we can take the portfolio committee through the presentation. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Before that, DG, I'm saying it will occupy us for 1 hour to 1.5 hours. I saw it.
Yes, Chairperson. It's a detailed presentation that we're going to do to the portfolio committee.
Yes, and it's a plan, and it focuses on issues, operational issues that the AG raised.
Indeed, Chairperson.
Let me just ask you a question. Has it been reviewed by the audit committee of the your external audit committee?
Chairperson, indeed, we have engaged with our external audit committee on these matters, Chairperson, and we're still continuing as we have other matters that still have to be finalized.
Has it been referred to the Auditor General? Because the Auditor General must satisfy themselves as to the reliability of your plan.
As we have been saying, Chairperson, that we still have some gaps, Chairperson. As soon as we close the gaps, as much as we're working with the AG, but we still have some gaps, we will be able to submit as soon as we close the gaps that we are having.
So it's work in progress?
Yes, Chairperson.
Colleagues, it's work in progress. I don't know how much detail you need from the...
Can I, with your indulgence, can I just add to what you have said? And that's why your first question, I think, was with regards to where's the audit committee. And we know that eventually the audit committee is actually the first line of defense or oversight in terms of this. So it's actually a bit of concern that they are not here, because eventually we will not only hold the department accountable and responsible, but most certainly them as well, in terms of what they are supposed to do. So yes, that is a concern, and you know, I'm not quite sure exactly why they then are not here in such an important meeting. Thank you.
Okay. You see, I want to propose a way forward on this one. I don't know how you'll receive it, DG. It's work in progress, and you are still going to, basically the internal, I'm looking at the powers of the, the functions of the audit committee. One of them is to review the audit action plan, isn't it? DG?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, maybe for today, let's separate issues. Let's focus on the preventative controls, as well as the cases of fraud and corruption. Just isolate those two areas, then afford you the opportunity to run your audit action plan past those institutions. One, your audit committee, and two, the AG, because they must be satisfied that the action plan addresses all the issues sufficiently that they've pointed out in the successive what you call audit reports. I'm sitting here aware that there are those issues, but as to whether the plan can be relied on in terms of adequately addressing all the issues to prevent repetitive audit findings, I'm in no position to confirm that. You see, that's my difficulty, colleague. Colleagues, do you grant us the opportunity to just unbundle the presentation, focus on the preventative measures and the cases of fraud and corruption, and then ask the DG to pass the plan through those institutions? What is your comment, colleagues?
You have a hand from Dr. Pasopo.
Yes. Oh, yes. My system is disabled. Dr. Pasopo? By the way, it's our new member. Colleague, welcome. And thank you very much that you were able to attend. This is a meeting of colleagues, and we are very collegial in this meeting. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Though I got the invitation 5 minutes ago, but it's not a problem because apparently it's a new deployment. Yeah. And secondly, two things that I want to check, Chair. Whether do we have this report? Because I'm handicapped where I'm sitting now. I don't have this report that we're talking about. Then secondly, I just wanted to respond on the issue of the internal audit committee or members that are not here. My understanding that committee is performing its duties on behalf of the department, and therefore the accounting officer is the one who is supposed to account to us. They can be present, but as I'm saying, that's my understanding in terms of the processes. Then the last point, Chair, can be on board, because an audit is a process. It's not just a once-off kind of arrangement. Where are we now? Because it seems as if we're not sure, but if we can just be taken on board, but in terms of the audit process, where are we? Because in that process, there are management letters and what have you, so that we can understand exactly where are we. But as I'm saying, the challenge that I have from now, I don't have a copy in front of me. Thanks very much, Chair.
Yes, no. I understand the challenge, and my apologies. The report should have been sent to all members. I think it's only yesterday that you were 80 seat as the changes to the committee membership was 80 seat. So I'm sure the team in the administration got to know about this at the same time or this morning. So maybe we will, Brian, can you attend to this question so that he is able to, if you could send him the presentation via
Yes, will do, Chair. I only have Dr. Pasopo's number, but I can send it through in the meantime through his number, the presentation. In the meantime, I've also asked for his email.
Okay, all right. Okay, for some reason, I'm unable to see the screen. Okay, let me grant the opportunity, the DG, but DG, please note that it's still work in progress and don't just focus too much on the details. So that you reserve sufficient time for preventative controls and the cases of fraud and corruption. Do we agree?
Yep, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. We'll focus on the areas that have been indicated.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so over to you, DG.
Thanks very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the Mr. Deputy Minister and the members.
Thank you, DG, and thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Is your video on? I don't see, I only see myself. Is your video on?
I've just put it on, Chair.
Okay, sure, thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like the Secretary to assist me to project a spreadsheet that was shared on Monday, the 21st of February at around 15:50 with the members of the Portfolio Committee. It's the Audit Action Plan spreadsheet, where I will be zooming into the preventative controls, of which a column is provided for on the spreadsheet. Well, that is the presentation. Chairperson, can I please be projected with a spreadsheet that accompanied the presentation? It was shared with the members of the Portfolio Committee on Monday, 21st of February at around 15:50.
I don't know what have I done here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Secretariat. Chairperson, in front of you is the Audit Action Plan that has been developed by the department and submitted for the purpose of this meeting today.
Sorry,
as
colleagues.
per your direction.
Sorry, colleagues. I've minimized my screen. How do I enlarge it? Anybody with the knowledge, Brian?
Chairperson, at the upper right corner, there should be either two arrows pointing to each other or apart. You just push on that, or that block that you have there. So I'm not quite sure which computer you have.
I have a block here.
Yeah, and then press on the block, small block.
The small block
in the upper right corner, and that should.
It's not working. Okay. No, it's fine. You may continue. I may have to come out and come back again. Okay, you may continue, colleague. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. In front of us, Chairperson, is just an overview of the findings that were identified by the AG. However, I would just like to make a disclaimer to say there was one more finding that was mistakenly omitted on this specific presentation. The findings are actually 69, not necessarily 68. And I would like to really apologize for that. The updated spreadsheet was shared. However, I see that perhaps the latest one was not necessarily shared with everyone. Chairperson, according to the plan, we have implemented about 37 out of 68, of which 31 were in progress. There was no findings that were not necessarily attended to, and this is not by error, Chair. Every official who had caused a finding had received a letter from the DG holding them accountable and responsible for the finding. So we find ourselves as officials to really have to take this process seriously in terms of ensuring that there is work that is being done to address finding. I would request the Secretary to just take us through the first tab, which is finance, of which my focus will be more on the preventative controls. Can I please see the headings? Yes. Chairperson, this template shows us the finding title and an exception number as per the AG report. There's a description of the finding. There's an action plan that is agreed between the AG and management, of which this is the column that I'll be zooming in because that's where we'll be able to identify preventative controls as per the direction of the chairperson. There's also the issues of root cause. It is highlighted red, chairperson, because on an audit perspective, if you get the root cause correct, you'll be able to address the finding. But if you do miss the root cause why such a deficiency occurred, then you will not be able to address the correct finding. So hence it is highlighted in red. And I would also wish to make another disclaimer to say this progress is as at 31st of December, 2021. With my focus, chairperson, being on column E, meaning that the action that is agreed between the management and the AGSA in terms of finding number 1, which related to Secretary, can you please, I'd like to see the first column that talks about the title as well as the exception number. Can I please see column A and B, Secretariat? Thank you. Thank you so much. The first finding related to the issues of logis, chairperson, and the preventative control, there would have been for a department to have an approved procedure to address the finding as required. Therefore, the procedure is scheduled to be completed before the end of the financial year. At the present moment, or as at 31st of December, that procedure was not yet approved, chairperson. And the second finding is linked to the first one, chairperson. So addressing the first finding would result to the department also addressing the second one. And the third finding, which relates to the segregation of duties, that issue, it was resolved, chairperson, but it is critical that we make even the issues that were resolved immediately after they were identified during the audit, so that we keep an eye on them to avoid recurrence. The issue of the issue of the delegations that should be corrected for the CFO, I think that I have corrected with my appointment to ensure that the delegations are aligned with the logis requirements. Can you please move to item number 4? Thank you. This, Chairperson, with the focus on column E, which is mostly the preventative controls, we are indicating that what would have prevented the finding from occurring is that we would have had a reviewed SCM policy, of which that was subsequently put in place. We have now an approved SNT policy. Therefore, the finding was addressed. The differences between the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, that was also addressed, Chairperson. We would prevent it going forward by ensuring that there is adequate reviews of the financial statements before the set is submitted to the AGSA. As we speak, Chairperson, as part of our preventative controls, our finance team is attending a meeting with the National Treasury in preparation for the compilation of the annual financial statements for the year. Therefore, we do have preventative controls in that manner. The issue of the fixed assets under investigation, Chairperson, due to capacity in this area, I think, Chairperson, investigations are in progress. A team went out last week to ensure that we reconcile all our books so that we can identify those items that really require investigation and present a report to the accounting officer. Determination tests for fruitless and wasteful expenditure not performed. This issue, Chairperson, it was dealt with and during the audit, and the preventative controls is that we do the test in line with the prescribed timelines as per the National Treasury requirements. In terms of the high-level inconsistencies identified in the financials, I think I've addressed this issue in terms of how we prevent it going forward to ensure that there's adequate reviews. Inconsistencies are as a result of there wasn't really adequate reviews before the Fs are submitted for external audit. Suppliers not paid within 30 days. This issue, Chairperson, in terms of the preventative controls, what I realized, Chair, since I've started acting is that we had challenges or gaps in terms of management of our invoices, wherein we were first acknowledging and accepting an invoice before all the required steps are taken. So what I've enforced is that before an invoice is dated and acknowledged, it must have been validated and verified that it is linked to the work that is done on behalf of the department, and it is in line with the approved processes so that we avoid irregular and fruitless. Therefore, I think that has assisted us because with reference specifically to January 2022, we had paid about 100% of invoices that relates to our purchase orders that were issued. We have 0% non-compliance. However, when it comes to benefits, we have paid about 97% invoices on time. However, 3% was not paid on time. And it's something that we are working towards, Chairperson, to ensure that we achieve 100% as required in terms of the PFMA and its treasury regulations. Again, Chairperson, there were inconsistencies in terms of financial statements, of which we are committing to prevent such going forward. Payables not recognized, it also around the issue of intense validation of information before it is presented for audit, and it's something that we are investing all our time to ensure that those registers that support financials are properly reviewed before they are submitted for an audit. Key management emoluments, this issue, it was corrected immediately after it was identified, and it will be avoided in the future. Non-compliance with the treasury instruction note. Chairperson, here we have created a database to track all COVID-19 procurement items. However, at the time of compiling this, then I could not necessarily say it has been achieved before I can satisfy myself as a responsible official that indeed this was achieved. Hence, it is sitting in progress. Control weaknesses in terms of the review processes on overtime. There were some controls that were strengthened to ensure that we prevent this going forward. In terms of the system, I think based on the information that I have received during the interviews with the officials is that there's now a fixed limit on personnel so that we do not go above the prescribed overtime limit by the public service department. Therefore, this issue is also in progress because I have not necessarily given myself time to test it and be confident to say it is 100% achieved. However, according to the interviews, it has been achieved. I just need to go there and validate. Recurring fruitless and wasteful expenditure not prevented. This issue, Chairperson, it was since prevented in the sense that now a policy of S&T was reviewed and approved, wherein the issues of no-shows, which relates to instances wherein either military veterans or officials, they miss their flights for different reasons. So now the controls, Chairperson, was strengthened through a reviewed S&T policy. Submission of the BBB Commission report. This issue is still in progress, Chair. We are working on it. It is not an easy task, hence we are indicating that it still is in progress at the time of reporting. Subsequent events not disclosed on the Fs, it was corrected immediately after it was identified during the audit. And going forward, Chairperson, we will ensure that we disclose all the subsequent events which relates to events that happened after the audit period. Incorrect disclosure included under irregular expenditure note. This was also corrected immediately after it was identified, and we are going to avoid it going forward. Suppliers, which are close family members to the officials, this issue, Chairperson, we are indicating that it's still in progress because of limitation in terms of the systems that the AG team has in accessing this information in terms of relationship between the suppliers and officials. However, it relates to a small amount of about 20,000. However, it is not something that is encouraged. What we do as the department is that officials disclose any financial interest through our HR when supplier, incorrect supplier awarded with a bid, this is under investigation, therefore cannot necessarily be reported as achieved until the investigation is concluded. Internal control deficiencies on the quotations registers. This was since corrected immediately after it was identified, and going forward, Chairperson will ensure that we really verify information before it is submitted for audit. Accruals overstated also was corrected immediately after it was identified, and going forward, it will be prevented, Chairperson, through intense review processes. Asset verification and recons not performed. This is the area that we are still currently busy with, Chairperson, in correcting, in the sense that preventative controls would be asset management policy, which requires us to perform irrecons at least once in a financial year. The control weaknesses in the review of the periodic payments, this was also corrected immediately after it was identified, and it will be prevented going forward. Misstatements in terms of the fruitless and wasteful, This was also corrected, Chair, immediately after it was identified, and going forward, it will be prevented through intense review. Items not condoned but removed, this was corrected immediately and it will be prevented going forward. Overstatement of irregular expenditure on remuneration of audit committee members. Chairperson, this was as a result of no policy, which a clear indication what do we mean by employees doing business with the state. So we have followed the DPSA circular, and the policy unit has developed a policy which clarifies that, and this issue will be prevented going forward in that manner. Understatement of accruals also corrected and will be prevented through intense reviews. Payables not recognized, same approach, same preventative control, Chair. Item 30, please. Rental accruals as well as overstatement of lease commitments also corrected and will be avoided through intense review, Chairperson. We have also making use of the Moral Incorporated, Chair, to assist us with the issues of financial statements, and we've been using the company for the past 2 financial years. It's last year, this year. Hence, the focus is more on training the internal team so that we can take over this responsibility of compiling financials. So, with that, strengthened capacity, we really are going to make the most of it to ensure that we avoid misstatements. Items not evaluated for local content. This issue is it's an issue that I still need to first validate, Chair. Their progress there, as indicated, is in progress because there's still a leg that is missing for validation. Understatement of performance bonuses estimate. It was also corrected immediately, and in future it will be avoided. Chairperson, misstatements on the asset register, that also the controls are strengthened. We do have an approved policy. We just have to ensure that we implement and ensure that there's adequate reviews of information that gets into the Fs. Thanks, that's all in terms of finance. Can you please move to corporate services? Column A, please. Chair, in terms of policies which have not been approved, I think I've already made reference to SCM and SNT policies that were approved during the year in my previous presentation. Therefore, we are making progress, Chair, in terms of addressing this issue. And going forward, as part of the preventative controls, I know the audit committee, as part of its standing agenda item, they require the department to present on its policy register to monitor, the state of internal controls in the department, and just to make sure that policies are reviewed on time. So it is an issue that is being attended to. And also yesterday we had a MENCOM where a lot of HR policies were presented for input by management, and then the approval process will follow. That is the preventative control, Chair. In terms of the organizational structure not aligned, here, Chairperson, it's something that is not entirely in the control of the administration, since we are, Chairperson, reviewing the act and the bill, which might come with its own human capacity requirements. So we're advised to say perhaps it would be wise to finalize this process only after the bill that the department is busy with has been concluded. So it is an area that is in progress. Please move to the next item. Business agreement and service level agreement were not reviewed. Sorry, Secretary, I do not see the entire spreadsheet as the case with my previous presentation. If you can please maybe minimize to about 60% so that I'm able to see everything. Once again, Secretary, through you, Chair. If you can please minimize once again. Just give it maybe 50% so that I'm able to see all the columns. Thank you, that's fine, thank you so much. Moving to item number 3, Chair, it relates to the ICT, where in the finding related to the business agreement and service level agreement, which were not reviewed, according to the progress provided, Chair, is that the business agreement were now reviewed and signed off. And going forward, will ensure that we do not wait until policies, procedures, and agreements are expired before they are reviewed, to avoid these kind of findings. And that number 4, no formal processes to measure information and communication technology return on investment and benefit realization. I think this also was addressed, Chair, according to our JITO, in the sense that a standard operating procedure to address the finding was completed and finalized. I think the same preventative control as I've indicated will be applied. I've indicated in item number 2 will be applied in this finding, Chair. Number 5, software licenses, which were not adequately managed. This issue, Chair, it's still in progress. I know that the unit has submitted something to Finance requesting the procurement of the licenses. We are still busy as the department. Antivirus software updates were not adequately deployed. This issue was addressed, Chairperson, and in the future, it will be avoided. Patch management processes was not adequately implemented. The action that we agreed with the AG was that managers responsible will be engaged to ensure that the workstations which are incompatible with the antivirus are replaced. So they were replaced. So it's an issue that will be monitored, Chairperson. In fact, the audit action plan itself, it's a monitoring, it's a preventative tool, Chairperson, so that we do not find ourselves with the recurring findings, again, if it is monitored closely on a continuous basis, even on a monthly basis. Moving to item number 8, inactivity timeout setting. This was also corrected, Chairperson, and the activated timeline now is 15 minutes. Therefore, it will be kept as such. So it is just an issue that needs to be set up on the system, and it will run and be monitored by management. Lack of information and communication technology awareness training. The trainings were now held, Chairperson. We just have to stick to the schedule, Chair, because in terms of our systems in the department, all officials must submit their training needs before the start of the year, and those training needs should be implemented during the year. We just have to, the controls are there. I think sometimes we're just not consistent in terms of implementing there. Otherwise, the preventative controls are there. Number 10, on logon violations on the Active Directory were not monitored. This issue is still in progress, Chairperson. The department is aware of this limitation, and there's a temporal measure, which is not ideal. Hence, the finding is still rated as in progress. Therefore, we are attending to it, Chair, and we are putting preventative controls to ensure that it does not reoccur again. Item number 11, Secretariat. Thank you. The firewall management were not adequately designed. This issue is still in progress. The department is still procuring a firewall solution that will be managed through SITA. That will be our control chair. Firewall activities were not monitored. The department will specify the rules to be logged on the syslog server to ensure that the SITA provide reports in a consistent manner. Disaster recovery plan not adequately designed. This is a joint effort between the ICT as well as risk management. How we have resolved, or how we are resolving it, Chairperson, is that we have incorporated this requirement as part of our annexures with the SITA to ensure that the BCP is developed, which will then inform the disaster recovery plan. It is a joint effort between the two units, and we are attending to it. Item 14, personnel and salary system policy and procedure documents were not necessarily concluded. As I've indicated, Chair, yesterday we sat and we dealt with a lot of HR policies, but I cannot confirm if this specific procedure and policy was part. But I know that the department is attending to it, and the commitment that was made there by the new director, HR, is that the policy will be approved before the end of the financial year. The user access right on personnel and salary system were not reviewed. This is one area the ICT was not in agreement with the AG. Therefore, we could not put it as completed. We'd rather leave it to in progress until such time that there is consensus between the AG and management in terms of addressing this matter. And it will also be incorporated as part of the HR policies. User access rights not reviewed. The management was also not in agreement with this finding, Chair. And the planned action was that the process of revisiting the ICT security policy is underway, because we do have an ICT security policy that is approved. So in terms of ensuring that the finding is addressed, it's a matter of amending that what has been identified by AG. Activities of the system controller on personnel and salary system were not monitored. The controller, or the salary system controller, was since appointed, and the issue was as a result of shortage of personnel, because systems require proper segregation of duties. So if we are running short in terms of personnel, some of these things, Chairperson, are not necessarily possible. Password reset controls on Active Directory were not adequately implemented. The preventative controls, Chairperson, was that, in fact, it was addressed, Chair. Preventative control there was put, and there was also a disagreement there over statement of leave entitlement, which was corrected immediately after it was identified, and it will be avoided going forward. It's all in terms of the corporate services. I'd like us to move to the inter-audit and risk management. Here, Chairperson, we only have two findings, which relates to the non-performance of the 5-year external assessments, as well as capacity within the internal audit. The preventative controls would be to perform the 5-year external quality assurance, but the process was started. A letter was sent to National Treasury to do what is referred to as the state of readiness review for the department then to be able to conduct the external assessment. The audit committee had resolved that the department follows what the option called a self-assessment with independent validation. So the first step has been followed by the department in terms of approaching the National Treasury. Then what is required is that now the department should self-assist itself and then invite an independent validator, who is usually the Institute of Internal Auditors, to then give an opinion whether the work of internal audit partially complies, generally complies, or does not comply. So that is still in progress. In terms of the preventative control going forward, we just have to, in fact, the inter-audit needs to put it as part of its strategic plans, with a clear date in terms of when should the external assessments be conducted. It should be incorporated as part of the strategic plans. And the second finding, which relates to the issues of capacity, Chairperson, for this one, I know that SCM is busy with the procurement of a company, which was a recommendation of the audit committee as back as about 4 or 5 years ago. Chairperson, to say, to respond to this audit query from the AG, to say we only have we only had 2 officials within internal audit, and the the Auditor General was not satisfied as to the capacity of the units. Therefore, a recommendation to appoint a company to beef up capacity and support the current inter-audit unit was made. And I know it's a process that is in progress, and it is intended to be completed before the end of February. So this issue should be sitting at green come the assessment for the 4th quarter. Please, let's move to SES. Thank you. Can I please see? Thank you so much. The first one, Chairperson, it relates to the limitation in terms of submission of information by the healthcare and education, that military veterans received counseling and treatment during the year, but had not been included in the register that was submitted for the AG, and that applies. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry, that applied for education benefit, and to prevent it, Chairperson, it's going to be a challenge. When it comes to benefits, we've got the issue of filing system.
Are you okay now? Because
yes,
I think maybe you need to sip water.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you take a second breath? 2 breaths. 1, 2. Are you okay now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Back over to you. Thanks.
Chair, this issue is around the files that are provided for audit. We have a manual system in place. So until that is addressed, we cannot confidently say the finding is addressed. It is addressed according to the interviews with the responsible units, but because of the manual system, there's always a room for error. It's therefore, to be on the safe side, it is put as 80% until confirmed by the AG. Education, there were files submitted for either missing education support checklist or evidence of the outcome of the adjudication. What happens here, Chair, is also linked to the issue of the manual system, wherein files are kept, but information is not necessarily filed accordingly. It was also addressed during the audit, and it will really be safe to put it in progress, because there's always a room for error in the manual system. In terms of preventing it going forward, Chair, we are working on integrated database management system where now files, work will be done online. And we are also expecting that files should be scanned so that we are sure that there is no room for error. So I think the preventative system here really is to implement the online database management system. Critical positions were vacant for more than 12 months. At the time of the audit, the DG's position was also vacant. However, it was filled. Now the DDG's positions are still vacant. So there are processes that are in place in terms of filling in those positions. Backups were not performed on the database. And here, Chairperson, we are not necessarily doing well. However, we are indicating that the ICT Service Continuity Plan was developed and it is currently in draft. After it has been approved, it would serve really as the preventative control to prevent this finding from recurring. Housing, military veterans provided with newly built houses per year. Quality assurance and validation should be enhanced to ensure that correct supporting portfolio of evidence is submitted. This also cannot be divorced from the fact that we have a manual system, Chair, which really is a biggest challenge when it comes to managing benefits. So the preventative control there, Chair, is really to have everything scanned on the online system and everything done online. Lastly, policy have not been approved. The housing policy is in draft and is being addressed in the housing work stream to ensure that inputs from all the stakeholders are taken into consideration before the policy is approved. This issue, it still is in progress, Chair, and the preventative control really would be to ensure that that policy is finalized and it is implemented and monitored. ESM, Chair, we only have one finding, which relates to the issues of non-compliance in terms of the payments made to the officials of the associations. It is something that the department is attending to, Chairperson. The preventative control there, I think the most appropriate person would be the accounting officer, maybe to advise in terms of how can we prevent it going forward. Therefore, I would like to leave that finding for the accounting officer to advise. I think there's one finding, Chairperson, that I've indicated to say in terms of the updated one, there's just one more finding which relates to the Office of the DG around the issues of consequence management, the delays thereof, and would like to advise the committee to say there is some work that is done in terms of ensuring that consequence management prevails for irregular expenditures incurred in the department. At the time of reporting, which was the 31st of December, we had not received any concluded reports from the Nexus forensic investigators. However, in terms of the details of the progress, I would also like to leave that to the accounting officer to advise further. Chairperson, that's all in terms of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Acting CFO. Well done. It's clear where you are going as a department. Before I note the hands, maybe let me note the hands. Right. Okay. There are two. There's only one hand so far. Colleagues, are they? Okay, there's a second one and the third one. Okay, so I've noted 3 hands. I'll start with Dr. Pasopu, will be followed by Honorable Shalembe, and the last member will be Honorable Mare, in that order, colleagues. I'll start with you, Dr. Pasopu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Maybe firstly, let's appreciate the presentation from the department. My view is that they are almost there in terms of responding to the issues that were raised by Auditor General. Then secondly, Chair, my understanding here, we are dealing with 2020-2021 financial year, which the assumption that I have already, there is an opinion from the side of the Auditor General's office. Perhaps if that can be shared with us, because as I'm saying, I was not part of the previous meetings, given the issues that are being raised here. Number two, Chair, as I've indicated, my presentation, that the audit is a process. Now, if already there is an outcome out of this in terms of the audit opinion, before that opinion is being sponsored, there is what you call management letter. In that management letter, Chair, in my understanding, these issues are being raised for the department to respond. It seems as if a gap on that, maybe the accounting officer must tell us exactly where the problem is. Then, secondly, Chair, in this report, there is a mention of the suppliers linked to the family members of the department. There is a report about fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And my understanding, Chair, all of these are financial misconduct in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, and as such are punishable. But in this presentation, there is no mention of consequence management as to say these are the steps that have been taken to ensure that whoever is responsible is accountable. Perhaps CFO because last input here, she indicated that maybe the DG will come in. So we are interested on that, Chair, Tina, as the committee, because as the committee, who are an oversight body to ensure that these things are being implemented within the department. And if we don't do that, we'll be compromising our responsibility. Then the last point, Chair, is around the issue of organizational structure that is not aligned to the strategic plan, or I don't know what is the strategic plan, what, because I don't have the document in front of me. But the question here, Chair, just I want to check, within the department, do we have an approved organogram? If we don't, how do we operate without an approved organogram as the department? I'm sure, Chair, so far, those are the questions that I have. But again, Chair, if this presentation in front of us, we are expected to adopt, is expected to be adopted by the committee, for record purposes, it should be reflected as a draft. This should be a draft presented to us as the committee. Then after undergone all the processes, then it will be a final draft. So I'm saying for record purposes, Chair, that document, audit action plan, it should be a draft audit action plan of the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. The next member is Shalembe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, Chairperson, I want to, to appreciate, the presentation, is highlighting and is like there is a willing to implement the recommendations of the Auditor General. But Chairperson, firstly, if they say, I mean, the chief financial officer has been suspended, but Chairperson, I'm not sure how long that suspension is gonna take, I mean, in the department. Because, I mean, that position is very, very important when it comes to the implementation of what is being said by the AG. Then I'm looking, I mean, at the cost that the department will be responsible on that suspension, whilst, I mean, the work in that office, I mean, is not, I mean, being done. Then who's going to be responsible of any wrongdoings, I mean, in that department, since, I mean, the CFO is no longer there in the office. But maybe if I can get, I mean, the clear, I mean, information that the person who might or who may be acting in that CFO position, he or she, I mean, has got the capacity, I mean, to ensure that things are happening while the chief financial officer is on suspension. And then to, I mean, Chairperson, supply chain management is one of the most, I mean, important, I mean, section or, I mean, unit in any organization. Now, I don't want, I mean, to see the DMV experiencing the same problem that is currently being experienced by the one military hospitals where billions of rand were wasted because of, I mean, poor or lack of capacity in the supply chain management, though the issues may not be the same. But I'm very, very concerned when it comes to the supply chain management. What is that is being done to ensure that, I mean, there is no, I mean, diversion from the systems in place, since, I mean, the CFO is not, I mean, well, the person that is going to be occupying will have the capacity to ensure that nothing goes wrong, I mean, in the supply chain management. Chairperson, I don't know whether that will be relevant, but to me, I think it's relevant because there was an issue of the skills audit that, was launched, I mean, or was, I mean, put to ensure that the people who are doing the job do have the capacity or the necessary skills or necessary qualification. Now, it has taken long. I'm not sure if that plan or the way, I mean, they are going to implement the audit, action, report is required, whether they are going to be able to ensure that, I mean, these things, I mean, are done or are implemented accordingly. If, I mean, we are still having the people who do not have the necessary qualification for those jobs that they are doing. Another thing that I want to check, Chairperson, she mentioned the issue of that there are some plans that are being delayed because of the Military Veterans Act that has not been reviewed. I didn't get well, what are those, I mean, plan or, I mean, that will be affected because of that? Because to me, that Military Veterans Act is still applicable until, I mean, it has been reviewed. So I don't think, I mean, we may say now things will not happen because of the delay in the Military Veterans Act review. Chairperson, the issue of the two, I mean, Director General that has been advertised in March last year, well, I can partly agree that the issue of the lockdown or COVID-19 things, I mean, has been the cause to delay the appointment. But Chairperson has taken too long from March to March that the job was advertised, but nothing has been done. Maybe if one can get the clear time frames that this position will be filled, maybe not less than that. She has also put an excuse that that will be determined by the availability of the ministers to participate in that panel or whatsoever. So now, I don't know in that case now, whether if, I mean, there are no clear time frames, maybe in the next time when they can't say, oh, we have not been able to get the minister to the panel, what will be the other issues? But it's been a year So now, if maybe they can put a time frame that, okay, it's been a year, but they are looking at it, seeing it being filled, not later than a month or 2 months. So we can't just do it like that to say because of the ministers, because of the COVID-19, but we want, the clear, so that we'll be able to follow up. Otherwise, when they come back, they may say, we have not been able. So these are the issues, Chairperson, I was looking at. And Chairperson, in any organization, the budget whatsoever is implemented by a fully functional, organogram. Now, looking to these issues now, we may want to implement what has been said by the Auditor General, but if the organogram or the staff establishment is not in line with what is required to ensure, those, action to be, implemented are done. So maybe if they can tell us exactly, whether that organizational structure is still, not full functional, so that, we know that there are challenges, but we can't live here and say, because now they have put the good plan to say they are going to address, but the issue of that, it goes together with the issue of the skills, whether the people do have the capacity in that organogram or not. So thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shelembe. Honorable Mare.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just going to add a few issues, and then I've got points that maybe we can deal with that under C of 3C of the agenda. But my first one is that just in terms of our newest colleagues' comments on consequence management, and I share that concern. And I obviously, we must determine who is responsible, and we must hold people accountable, even the minister and the deputy minister, if there are no consequences and disciplinary actions. So maybe there can be a response in that regard, whether something is already happening, and if not, why not? Then secondly, I want to ask, maybe just for the deputy minister, if I may. I know that between him and the minister, they have shared certain responsibilities. And if I am correct, the deputy minister is primarily responsible for Department of Military Veterans. So if he can maybe just give us an input from his side in terms of what can be done and how can be done and what he can contribute to that. Then I also want to say that in the latest Defence Web, there's an article which depicts that there's outstanding lawsuits against the Department of Military Veterans of close to 190 million rand, and whether any of those lawsuits has got an implication on the Auditor General's queries, because clearly if there are lawsuits, they are coming on for quite some time now, and that should be applicable to this specific financial year. And then just lastly, I want to know, in that financial year that we are looking at now, how much money were forfeited at the end of the financial year, in other words, back to National Treasury? Or was the whole budget that utilized, or how much money was forfeited back to Department of the National Treasury? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me just check if there's any other hand. All right.
Chair.
Who is that?
Because I don't know what's wrong with my gadget. I can't raise my hand, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Pickers, it's over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in acknowledging the presentation, I want to commend them on the progress in some areas. Also, the fact that there's time frames and designated officials to do or to implement certain things. I, however, want to request that the progress of the audit action plans must be included in the quarterly reports to Parliament. Then, secondly, Chair, in most instances, they raise capacity in the manual system as the root cause. And I'm trying to understand, Chair, during this fourth industrial revolution time, and I think it's difficult for me to understand how can we still do things manually, and the fact that they do it manually influence the outcome. And I hope in identifying that as a root cause, it will change the situation. So, Chair, my question is, how can they speed up in getting the implementation of the new system? Then lastly, Chair, the irregular expenditure is mostly because of a no-show by officials. Was there any consequences launched towards those officials? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, colleagues, I also have two questions. The first question, it's the department laments under capacity in the internal audit. It says there's insufficient capacity with only 2 members employed, and they're looking at outsourcing, getting a private company or consultant to assist in beefing up capacity. I don't know what it means in terms of building internal capacity within the entity. Why going this route of appointing an a service provider when you can fill all the posts and ensure that there is strengthened capacity within the internal audit environment, so that we know that capacity is built over time. But when it is built, you know you are short that there is capacity. The only time you lose it is when people die or resign and so on. But the systems will be there. Why opting this route of engaging the services of a service provider instead of filling the vacancies to beef up the system? And then the second point relates to the question I raised earlier on of the internal audit committee. Dr. Pasopu raised it that the internal audit committee is part of the reports to the accounting officer. With AG and all portfolio committees, we took a resolution that because they exercise oversight over departments and they report to Parliament, audit committees report to Parliament, so they must then come and talk to us about the report that they filed into Parliament. In the report to Parliament, they say things like, for example, the number of meetings held by the accounting officer, the number of meetings attended by not the accounting officer, the audit committee members, the number of meetings attended by them, and most important, I'm not going to mention other things that they report to Parliament on. I'll just single this one out. The effectiveness of the internal control systems. That too must report, they must report on it. And the other responsibility that they are entrusted by law is to review all external audit plans and reports and report and monitor management's implementation of audit recommendations. So they are in a way accountable on their own report. It is in that context that Parliament, the chairs agreed and the Auditor General agreed that let's not just receive the report and leave it at that. Let's call them to come and talk to the report, because there was a reason why they were appointed. And only if their effectiveness is tested, that will be assured as Parliament that they are not just there, but they are adding value. So it is in that context that it's critical that once this draft is adopted, so it's finalized by the committee, it is also sent for a review and also deposited with the Office of the Auditor General, because we hold those to account on their own in their own areas of responsibility. So, colleague, now is the opportunity to respond to all the questions raised.
Thank you very much to Chairperson, Minister and Deputy Minister, and the members. We will definitely respond on the matters that have been raised by the members. The first area that I will take up is the area that was raised with regard to what is our opinion. The audit opinion that the department received is an unqualified audit opinion. That's the opinion that the department received for the year under review. And we were also meant to explain the issue of the management letter and the action plan and the report that we're currently presenting. Indeed, Chairperson, as the member has indicated, the management letter, of course, is what has been reduced into this audit action plan and the AG report. So we are indeed referring to those matters as they are highlighted there. The other area that was raised was the issue of consequence management. Indeed, with reference to the 119 million that was raised by the Office of the Public Service Commission, which the member has mentioned in the House today, there was consequence management done, whereby 4 senior managers were set aside and their cases are currently in progress. But besides that, some of the officials that are affected by the findings, I have written letters to each and every official highlighting the matters that were raised in the management report for their consideration and their processes that they must form in terms of disciplining, as the member has raised that, what happens to the people who have done no show. Each and every manager has received a letter with the list of findings in order to avoid continuous audit findings in each and every component. I just heard recently from the labor relations person that he has engaged the managers to discuss and prioritize each and every manager's findings to ensure that the disciplinary processes kickstart. And we are expecting to finalize those processes before the end of the financial year. In the area that was raised with regards to, I think I tried to deal with that area. I think there was an area that was raised with regards to the organogram. Indeed, Chairperson, the current organogram that is being utilized by the department was approved in 2010, and there has been work that needs to be processed and pushed very fast in terms of looking at the organogram, as it has been cited by the members to say that there must be alignment between our mandate and capacity in the department, including the budget. Those 3 areas, indeed, as the member has indicated, have to talk to each other. The work on the organogram is also going to be speeded up. And we are also linked to the work of the PTT, which is also talking to the organizational structure of our department. And we will be noting some of the advices that we are receiving from the committee in terms of strengthening our work in that regard. I would like my colleagues to take up the issue. I think it's also important to raise the matter to say our internal unit indeed is undercapacitated. Hence, AG requested us in the meantime, while we're still waiting for the organogram to be reviewed, we should have a company to assist us in ensuring that the work of the internal audit does not fail. In the new organogram, we are looking at ±8 to 10 positions that can be fulfilling the unit in ensuring that the work of the internal audit is successful in that regard. Indeed, capacity is an issue in that component at the present moment in time. The issue around, I think I've touched on the issues around consequence management. My colleagues will take up the other issues. Zinja, you can pick up on the issues that were raised with regards to finance and SCM. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Zinja?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of SCM, Chairperson, we acknowledge that there are some capacity constraints, human capacity constraints that we are faced with. Hence, we have engaged with other departments to request that they lend us some of their capacity. For example, we are working very closely with State SA, who's a big department, who have obtained clean audits for a number of years. Therefore, they have assessed our capacity within SCM, and we are running very short, Chairperson. We have also returned to our mother department and requesting, to lend us some of the members of their team, and it's something that we are working on, Chairperson. But there are human capacity related challenges in terms of our SCM. Chairperson, in terms of the budget for the previous financial year, which was 2021, we have surrendered. I just want to check. I think we spent about 89%, Chair. I just need to get the correct figure. I will just post it on the chat. I want to just grab my annual report and just post it on the chat, Chairperson.
Okay.
That's it, Chair. Chairperson, I think there was also an issue that was raised in terms of the relationships between suppliers and family members. Chair, for that one, we have a system in place at the department, which is a manual system, Chairperson, for officials to declare any interests. However, the AG has an advantage of other systems where they can pick up this information. So for now, we're just relying on employees declaring any interest on an annual basis. And if there's any interest that occurs thereafter, Chairperson, I don't think we necessarily do have systems to pick up those kind of discrepancies. It's something that requires us to have access to the platforms that our AG does have. So it's something that we are attending to explore how best can we have access also to the same platform our auditors have. I think that's all on my side, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samba. The member raised an issue of the fourth industrial revolution and how, as a department, we are participating. Indeed, Chairperson and the members of the committee, the issue of ICT has been in annual reports for the last, if I can look at past 5 years, and we are even having it in the current annual report. We have indeed sat down as a department to look at how can we unpack this monster of ICT, as it is a very complex area. We have also been assisted by SETA to ensure that as we unpack, it is able to cover in terms of the needs of the department. Hence, my colleague was talking about the IDMS, which is the system that is introduced also by other departments in ensuring that there's efficiencies in the delivering of services. Hence, there's a mention of a number of areas where things were done manually, and it has affected a lot of military veterans in terms of accessing their benefits on time and with all the efficiencies that are needed. And the department has also followed suit and being assisted by SETA to ensure that we are on board and we are able to engage with all our benefits and our branches. And currently, on the 6th of December, a dry run was done with the department and the departmental officials. That process is an ongoing process where we'll be ensuring that we are training the departmental officials on the system. Furthermore, the advice from SETA was also to say that we need to take through our constituencies as well, which are the military veterans' families, and we also need to link the system in our programs that we are doing as a department to ensure that there's synergy in the work that we are doing. And indeed, Chairperson, the process is led by one of our women GITO specialists in the department, and we also established a GITO committee that is assisted us in taking forward this process and unpacking it and making sure that all 3 compartments are addressed, which is the issue of the departmental updating and upgrading of information, but also how do we also capacitate our employees and how we capacitate also our stakeholders to ensure that there's synergy in the way going forward. It is not an easy exercise, Chairperson. I do recognize that in the past, it might have been taken step by step. We're also saying that we are also going to be taking it step by step, but also using state institutions to assist us, as it is also cheaper to do that and also much more closer to us. And SETA has given us a project manager and a team that is working with us in all the areas that I've raised in this meeting. Just to say that we were also excited that we can be part of the history and the legacy. Maybe in the year to come, will be the first constituency to be able maybe to vote maybe online, as we are also being taken on board through this process. And many other functions will be loaded onto this system that is being taken through in the department. And that was an area that was raised by Mayor because to say what is our participation in terms of the 4th industrial revolution. And we will be continuing to give some inputs and updates on where we are going with regards to this project. Thank you, Chairperson. The organogram, Chairperson, we will ask Mr. Siango to take the committee through that process. Thank you, Mr. Siango.
Thank you, DG. Good morning to the committee and good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Indeed, Chair, I think here we acknowledge the the capacity issues that keep on being raised in the report, and perhaps one of the things that we were guided on about by the executive authority, especially on the issue of skills audit, was the fact that we need as a department to ensure that we fill in all the vacant posts in the department so that we ensure that at least there's capacity in areas where they've been vacant posts. And secondly, around the issue of skills audit, we know that there was a process that was undertaken, but then it had its shortfalls and it was never completed. However, in our engagement internally in the department and together with the organized labor, we have resolved that there is a need for the department to undertake this process again, so that we ensure that we match, the skills to the areas, to the important areas in the department. So we are going to be looking at that again. However, it's going to be an internal process that we do. Fortunately, Chair, we have capacitated the HRM or the Human Resource Management environment, where there is a new director now who has taken this process on board. And I'm sure in the new financial year, there will probably be plans that are announced around how we're going to do the issue of skills audits and capacitation of the department. And maybe in terms of the organogram, I know that we have engaged, this has been spoken about. There was work that was done, Chair, to the extent that there was a proposed functional structure that was discussed with DPSA, of which then the process of the presidential task team, is really working, not working it's working from a base, in the sense that we are taking that that work that was done previously and then enhancing it based on the current needs of the department, and also on the current developments around the amendment, to ensure that whatever now structure that we are going to propose and discuss with the executive authority, it's a structure that actually fits, that supports, what is going to be an outcome in terms of amendment. But there is a functional structure that was proposed, and we have really not then moved forward around ensuring that that functional structure is taken through the proper approval processes. That includes, of course, discussion with our principals, being the executive authority. So I think I will end there. Maybe I just also need Chair and Gigi just to add on the issue of no-shows for officials. I think there was a question around that. Is to say that the department has, for officials, the department has, I've seen the communication between the department and the employees, where the department has investigated some of these. If then an official is found to have been negligent around these no-shows, then there is a debt recovery process that is undertaken. And where we were struggling, Chair, was when we were transporting military veterans. It's no-shows and also accidents, on vehicles that we have hired for military veterans, because they were not part of our policy, because the policy only spoke to officials. So we have since, as a department, updated the policy to include our stakeholders, which are the military veterans. So then, should some of these things happen, then we'll be able then to there is a clear process in the policy in terms of how then we need to recover what is due to the department should these kind of cases happen again. I will end it there for now. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Thank you, Mr. Siango.
Are you done?
Mr. Siango is done, Chairperson. I thought, let me also touch a little bit on the issue of the money that was sent away. Indeed, Chairperson, there was a funding that was cut by Treasury, and indeed, Chairperson, close to 5.5 million was then sent away in this financial year, Chairperson. And if we are looking at the issue,
so that you're not at cross purposes, was it the money that was underspent, or the cut that you experienced during the course of the during the adjustment appropriation? What are you talking about?
It was the money that was cut by Treasury Chairperson from the department. We were told that the other money went for the COVID-19. The other money went for the general personnel of the whole country. And those were the cuts that happened, and that's where they went.
Okay, it's clear now.
Chairperson, just on that point, does that then imply that there was no money that was supposed to be spent other than that was given back to National Treasury?
I think the question is, how much was the 2021, by how much was your 2021 budget underspent? In percentage terms?
The underspending was close to about 55.5. I think yes, about 51 million per person.
What percentage was that? The acting chief was trying to look at that information.
Yes.
Acting CFO.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that we have spent 89.4 of the budget of 480 million. Therefore, 10.6 was surrendered to the National Treasury. 10.6 is 51 million, basically, in terms of monetary value.
51 million rand. That's 10.6%. All right. Are you covered, Mr. Murray?
Yes, thank you very much. I don't know if it is possible for them, and if you allow, if they can, because the only reason I'm asking this is because we have got so much questions from military veterans, and obviously any money underspent, one must know why that was underspent and whether that couldn't have been utilized for some of the needs that the military veterans are complaining about. You know, even from housing to medical, to education, to whatever the other case. Also the pension grants and things like that. So that's just a reason. Was that ring fence money that was lost? It couldn't have been spent or adjusted to be utilized for other purposes. Just on that.
Are you not on budget now? I thought they've answered your question.
To a certain extent, but it refers to the audit process as well, as to why that happened, that we haven't spent or utilized it for other purposes that was eventually pointed out.
Yeah, you see, I think maybe let's deal with it when we deal with the annual report, because they have reported the areas in which they underperformed, the targets that were not met, and the reason why those targets could not be met. So I'm worried that we may actually be approaching this issue piecemeal, Mr. Murray. Are you agreeing with me that let's have a fuller presentation?
Yes, no problem. We can just postpone that. And then just my other questions are regarding the minister as well. So.
Has your other question on outstanding lawsuits been addressed?
Not in terms of the lawsuits and the applicability, and on this audit report. No, it has not. The other questions have been addressed, and then the last one is probably for the Deputy Minister to respond. Thank you.
No, that's fine. No, it's fine. I'm happy with that approach. Colleagues, the DG, you see, the audit plan is good. The audit action plan is good. But it is predicated on you having, you know, a team of officials, you know, to drive it. You have some officials on suspension, you know, leaving you with you having to ask other people to act in the position of other people, and that cascading down. I'm sure those who are acting, they have other people acting in their places as well, right down to the lowest level. And like a Hollywood movie. Now, that's one. And two, you have you appointed about 30% of employees on contract. You said these are the posts, not you, your predecessor. These are the posts you need, but they're not on the organogram. And about a third, 30%, that's a lot. And citing the imperfections with the organogram as it stands. Dr. Basopo asked a question on the organogram earlier on, whether it was ever reviewed. It was never reviewed since it was put together in 2020, and it's now 12 years. The organogram was developed ahead of the legislation that the founding legislation, the Military Veterans Act. So it explains the inconsistency, the non-alignment. You have your organogram predating the act that establishes the entity. And the act, and from the act envisaged policies, which policies, some of which, the majority of which have actually been developed. And all of that are not aligned to the organogram. And it cries out, it doesn't need a rocket scientist, that the organogram needs to be fixed. And now, how long? And now we're being told that it's being dealt with by an external body. It's now over a year we've been listening. I remember the DM presenting in February at our strat plan on progress being made in this regard. But it's now a year later. There's no organogram in place. And now, DG, I'm asking this question to you. How, as you're a seasoned official, how long does it take to review an organogram? I will tell you from my own experience. I would say 6 months is the maximum. In the 6 months, you consult with labor. If you're in the province, you consult with labor, you consult with the Premier's office, you consult with the DPSA. If you're at the national level, you consult with labor, you consult with DPSA, you consult with the principals, your minister, and get the national minister's concurrence. You can do that within 6 months. And then another 6 months, migrating your personnel from the old organogram to a new organogram, because that requires matching, identifying what's called doing matching and placing. It takes another 6 months. In a year, you develop an organogram and fill all the posts. And place all the existing employees and identified new posts that required filling. That process is a year. But now it's more than, I don't know how many years we are dealing with this issue. And even now, you can't give us a timeline. When will this work be finalized? You're in a short of the department, you are inheriting it. We are explaining that it's been ongoing, but you are now in the office. How long, what time frame do you give to yourself to have this responsibility finalized? Over to you, DG. I'm raising this point because now you have to fill, now this time you have to appoint a service provider to assist you in beefing up the internal, audit function. And we have people in acting positions. We also have people who are on contract. And I can tell you, the contract now is longer than what is legally permissible. I think some people are longer, and I can tell you the expectation is now that they will be permanent. If they've not assumed some permanence as a result of some legislation that Parliament passed, that when you have acted, you have been on contract for this long, and the posts are there, you must be absorbed. I'm saying you'll end up with people being absorbed by default because of this prolonged process of filling vacancies. DG, I thought I should raise this point because it's critical and you have raised it. Maybe the DM, when he responds after you, does his final remarks, will touch on this one as well. But you first and then the DM. Shelembe, is your hand still up?
Oh, so, Chairperson, I forgot to add to
It's important.
All right. Yeah.
DG, just address this, then we ask the DM to give us his closing remarks. I would expect him to touch on this one because the department will stand or fall on the issue of a proper organogram. I think Dr. Pasopo has raised the point very well.
Thank you very much, Chair, and to the comments with regards to the organogram. Indeed, Chairperson, in a normal organization where you have all your staff in relation to HR and your expertise, you can be able to fill and design your organogram or your organizational structure within the timeframes that you have set up. And I think in the way that things are going with DMV now, we will be able to finalize the issue of organogram and the issue of the alignment with the, of course, the new bill. It can take, Chairperson, the whole of the next financial year. Having said that, Chairperson, we can be able to speed up to even lesser months because we have filled the departmental positions, especially directors in the critical areas, HR, labor relations, and HR planning, which was one of the crucial areas that we need to have as we are grappling with the organogram. And I think we are moving in the right direction, but definitely we would need additional capacity of some expertise coming from outside as the structure is very thin for us to be able to deliver on the matter. But indeed, all what you have pointed out, Chairperson, it is the truth. If the department is really ideal, but we are working towards ensuring that the department is ideal, filling at least those posts that have been approved by the organogram of 2010. 2 deputy director generals have been advertised, and the closing date is on the 28th of February. But I think it could be lesser than a year, maybe 10 months, because of the capacity that we've currently built. This process can be finalized, especially linked to the bill as well.
Okay. Do you undertake that you'll be able to produce an organogram before the end of this, before the end of the new financial year? In other words, where are we now? We're in February. In other words, before the end of 22-23 financial year. DG? DG?
Chairperson?
Yes, DG.
Chairperson, the time frame that we are looking at, indeed, Chairperson, is the end of this new financial year.
The new, before the end of the 23rd, the 22-23 financial year.
That's what we are striving to do, Chairperson.
And can we have a 6 monthly? Can we have you back on this issue within the next 6 months, just to give us progress?
Indeed, Chairperson, we'll do that.
Thank you so much. That's your undertaking, and we are recording it as such. All right, DM, your closing remarks.
Honorable Chairperson and committee members, thank you very much for indulging us. Just before, Chair, I make my comments on the discussion the committee has just entertained. With your permission, can I just ask the DG to come back and speak to two matters that were raised here, the one by yourself, Chair, in relation to the capacity of the Internal Audit Committee or the Internal Control Committee. What posts do we have there, and how many of them are vacant, and what the processes of filling those posts are? If the DG could just come back to that, because Chair, you raised the point about why go outside, why go and source capacity outside to do your internal audit work when you actually have the possibility of appointing permanent functionaries. I think that question needs to be, directly answered, because yes, other departments that are struggling with audits do employ consultants, audit, companies to assist them deal with their audit challenges and to clean their slates. But it is always, of course, an intervention that is sustainable when, after that work is done, there is capacity internally to sustain good practice. And the other one is with respect to the External Audit Committee. If the DG can just come back and share with the committee the status quo around the External Audit Committee, its composition, and the regularity of its meetings, and the filing of reports by that External Audit Committee. If the DG could just come back and speak to those 2 points, I'll then come in and make my closing remarks.
Okay, no, you are right, DM. DG, can you speak to those 2 points? The internal audit first, its capacity, the staff that there is, and and the timeframes in filling those posts vis-a-vis your appointing consultants. And how long will those consultants, for how long will those consultants be in place?
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity once more. In terms of our internal audit structure, the department has only 2 positions of a director and the deputy director. Actually, the person that is also there is a risk manager. That is the organogram, the existing organogram that was approved in 2010. as I did the presentation, to say that going forward, it has been recognized that in the new organogram, a proposal of 8 to 10 positions have been suggested. That is the current status quo. And I have indicated to the committee that in terms of my perception of the unit, indeed, it is very weak in that regard. And it's something that we're looking to correct going forward. Hence, the AG raised the matter of saying this process of correcting might take a little bit longer. Therefore, we need to have a company to assist and support the department while we're trying to correct the situation of the internal audit unit.
Sorry, can you repeat the post? The current organogram envisages 3 posts.
Yes, Chairperson. It's the Director Internal Audit, Deputy Director,
right?
And there's a risk manager.
And the risk manager. Those are the 3 posts envisaged by. And in the new organogram, you envisage 8 to 10 posts.
Yes, Chairperson. In terms of the PSA, there isn't a prescribed number. The department needs to assess, of course, the budget, assess everything that is related to appoint a person within the internal audit section.
Right.
From the PSA side. There's no prescribed number.
So sorry, these 3 posts, let's go back. These 3 posts are all filled. A director, internal audit, deputy director, and risk manager.
Yes, indeed, Chairperson. The director internal audit is the current acting CFO presently. The deputy director internal audit is acting in the position. It's just that today he's absent, he's off sick.
Okay. How many posts, how many people were appointed as contractors to support this unit? In other words, who are additional to the establishment insofar as this unit is concerned?
I think I will rely on my internal auditor of the past. Currently, we have requests to be assisted by also our sister department to ensure.
No. I'm talking about people who are already on our payroll, who are in this unit. The director internal audit is in the meeting. She would know. I understand she is acting CFO.
Oh yes, she is in the meeting, Chairperson.
How many posts were created on a temporary basis to support the internal audit unit that are there being on our payroll?
Yes, thanks, through you, Chair. Currently, we do not have any contract positions assisting within the internal audit. There were contract positions before. However, the audit committee felt strongly that we needed a company that would provide support to the current internal audit unit. Hence, that process was sort of stopped so that we can look into the process of getting a company. It was previously advertised for about 3 years. But currently there are no people appointed on a contract basis under the internal audit unit.
All right, so the advertisement is out for outsource this service.
That's correct, Chair.
For 3 years.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't get that.
For 3 years.
For 12 months now. Yes, for 12 months.
No. If it was advertised for 3 years, how is it possible that you can change it to 12 months? I just want to be clear on that one.
Chairperson, it was initially advertised for 3 years. However, due to capacity within our own SCM in terms of the various bid committees, we could not finalize the process. We had to write to Treasury to say, we are stopping this process, we're gonna go through a quotations route. The quotations have been increased by the National Treasury to at least a maximum amount of $1 million. therefore we had advertised for a period of 12 months while we are still sorting out the internal issues affecting the functioning of the internal audit unit.
Okay. So that assumes that in the 12 months, the organogram will be reviewed.
That's correct.
In a position to fill the vacancies.
That's correct, Chair.
No, I think that is said. The DM will make a follow-up at the right time. Let's deal with the Internal Audit Committee. What is the
external audit?
The status of the Internal Audit Committee?
I think that will be the external one now. We've just spoken about the Internal Audit Committee. Chairperson, the External Audit Committee is also weak chairperson. We're supposed to be having 5 people chairperson. We are currently having 2 people, and the other posts were advertised as chairperson, and interviews were also set up. They are awaiting the submission that needs to go to the ministry to ensure that we have a full complement of the External Audit Committee members.
Okay, let's check what happened to the other committee members, because you initially had, I think, 7. If I okay, you initially had 5 members.
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay. Okay, no, can I just lead you on this one because I have the record? Amen Ahmad, his term was expiring 2021. It means that this position was not filled, February 2021. Advocate W.E. Huma, expiring February 2021. And the other 3 is Muhohwe, Bongani Dlamini, and Mazwi Shongwe, expiring April 2022. And the audit report, the audit committee report is signed off by Mushohwe. All right. So it means that she signed it as an acting chairperson. Can you just give us the status of this? You're saying 2, but I see 3 here. What happened to the 3rd person, and what is the functionality of this committee?
Chairperson, I must be honest, Chairperson, we did not prepare in details for this question of the External Audit Committee, but it is safe to say that it is also, Chairperson, weak in terms of the complements of the members. And indeed, we have an acting person. This is what we are trying to fix, Chairperson. And for the next meeting, can we be allowed, Chairperson, to give a full report of what is happening around the members? Other members couldn't be affirmed due to the challenges of HR matters that were requested and could not be provided. I would love to bring a full complement of the External Audit Committee and give a report of each and every person and give a report of what is happening on each and every member of the External Audit Committee.
The internal audit, Zinhle is an internal audit director. She should be in a position to know, because she operates in this environment. She reports to the audit committee.
Yes, sir.
And yes, for the last financial year, I know you may have some challenges because you are new. The last financial year, they had 9. I mean, Mushohwe had 9 out of 9 meetings. Dlamini had 9 out of 9 meetings, and Mazwishong had 9 out of 9 meetings, right? And but you are saying you only have 2 remaining. What happened to the 3rd member? I think I am saying Zinhle, because reports directly to this is here environment. What is the situation, Zinhle, in respect to this internal audit committee?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to align myself with the input really of the accounting officer to be provided with some time just to go back, because I have not really been in touch with the affairs of internal audit since I've been assisting on the role of the CFO. I wouldn't really have much information in terms of the developments. Yes, thank you.
I will want to leave it at that, not that I'm satisfied. Over to you, DM.
No, indeed, Chair, the responses could have been better with respect to the status quo as far as the External Audit Committee is concerned. And we should not struggle to just, share a picture of what the lay of the land is there. I think by the next meeting of the committee, there should be, a submission of information around the External Audit Committee, because from where we sit, it looks like there is miscommunication. Information is not tallying. But at the next meeting of the committee, not at the next meeting, by the next meeting of the committee, a submission should be, a written submission of that information to the committee should be provided. Yes. So having said that, if with the permission of the committee, let me just make the following remarks. Firstly, to say that, Chair, what we were dealing with, it's the audit findings action plan, the findings of the AG's office on the work of the department in the year under review, which is 2020-2021. And because of those findings, the department was expected to have very clear plans of how the shortcomings were going to be addressed. So we are dealing with an action finding, audit findings action plan, which is ongoing work. Things that in the course of this financial year, the Auditor General expects the department to make improvements on by correcting those areas. Now, let me just say to the sentiment expressed by Honorable Madre about what is the view of the ministry about the department. My approach, Chair, would be that we have a whole host of challenges around our Department of Military Veterans. However, I would take an approach that says today the business of the committee is the audit findings action plan to confine the challenges of the department around the issues that plan is raising. Because there are other matters which, as someone commented earlier on, we can always come back to when we have the right discussions on our agenda. Members will observe that a lot of the issues that are on the audit action plan are challenges that are in the back end environment of the department, the plant end. And they are also issues that are around the handicap the department is functioning with of not being an automated department. So the orchestration or the introduction of digital business processes in DMV, it's a very critical intervention. And the DG has spoken to this that they have this program of the integrated data management system. Of course, in all departments, that's what is happening, that you have these integrated information management systems. The business of the departments, different branches speaking to one another at the touch of a button, enabling managers to get a holistic picture of whatever issue it is that they are tracking. So in relation to our department, the department reported that they have introduced the integrated data management system, and it was launched within the department in December. We are awaiting a presentation and a demonstration of this capacity of the department. I will be visiting the complex together with the minister to see for ourselves what this improvement that has been shared with the committee today involves. I say so because in the past, the reason why the department was not, its business was not digitized, we're told was because of the complex way DMV is, that it created constraints that made the automation of the department by way of putting in the necessary cabling virtually impossible. And that's why the department has been on a manual mode for the longest time. So we would be going for a demonstration of the new way of doing business that the department has now established. The issues raised in the Auditor General's by the Auditor General's report, there will be matters, as you will see, that rely a lot on the digitalization of the department's business. You know, matters such as personnel and salary systems, matters such as logis, the logistical information system, the disaster recovery plan. They all speak to the capacity the department must have, IT-wise, to be able to get these instruments functioning well. But let me just conclude by saying this, Chair, to the committee, that these issues are matters that we are clear will be improved by the appointment of the DDG corporate services. The two posts of DDGs that are vacant, and they've been vacant for years. It includes the DDG corporate services. So for us to deal with these audit findings and the audit plan that we have, the DDG corporate services is a very critical functionary for the department to have. As the DG has just said, we now at least have the advert out there that will be closing end of this month, and hopefully that post will be filled within, the absolutely, stipulated time frames. I can just make the point that the filling of critical vacant posts in the department, for some reason that we still do not understand, seems to be a very intractable, responsibility. The department is forever taking the longest time to get these vacancies filled, to a point that they may tempt you to believe that it is not the simple administrative work that must be done, but maybe there are other considerations why certain areas are functioning for the longest time without the requisite capacities. But That, of course, you'll, from my tone, hear that is raised out of frustration more than any factual information. But the department is just taking in an inordinate amount of time when posts must be filled. And there are no consequences. There are no consequences in spite of having pleaded with the DG to say there must be consequences for this. We can't have posts that are not filled when the department has such a limited number of workforce to operate with. Furthermore, Chair, what I wanted to say is that in relation to the organogram of the department, which has been raised, and I agree, it's a very critical point, a challenge for the department. The Presidential Task Team's deliberations appreciated that point, and it is for that reason that one of the work streams was the work streams to deal with the restructuring of the department. And the other reason why the Presidential Task Team established a work stream to deal with the organizational structure of the department is that the military veterans associations themselves, when the task team met with them, they raised this question about the structure of the department, that they find it so deficient and that it is part of the reasons why their services are not rolled out the way. We have advised the department, and we have hinted the same to the work stream, that it is not going to be easy for them to have capacity within any department, whether Treasury, whether GPSA, and even DMV itself. They will not have the capacity of a team that will deliver that product for them. You need management specialists who deal with work around how organization structures should be crafted in a way that follows their strategies. But not only that, but that the structure is also informed by the business processes of any organization. So the business process mapping, the designing of structures in management science, it's a speciality. There are people who just specialize with that. It is not everyone who is a proficient manager, even an MBA, a person with an MBA who will necessarily do a business process mapping for you. So we have indicated that it is necessary for the department to get assistance to get this thing done. And I agree with the chair that 6 months should be enough. It's quite an involved work, but within 6 months, we can deliver a new organization, organogram of the department. But if the department does not appreciate the need to get that done through that approach, then we can talk another year and another year and another year. The department has been with an organogram that is out of sync for the last 10 years. It has not been updated for the last 10 years. And as you have pointed out, Chair, that this structure was put even before the Act was promulgated. Was passed by Parliament. So we can do this. The department's management must just get the requisite professional assistance. And in 6 months, we can have the product on the table. And it is important, unfortunately, because it is one of those structural constraints to the performance of the department. The point about consequence management, Chair, I would want to give the committee members comfort that the ministry is attending to this matter very intensely. The DG has indicated that as part of her office intervention to implement the reports of the Public Service Commission, but also of the Auditor General, there were officials that were suspended. Just yesterday, we spent a whole afternoon with the minister together with the DG discussing these consequence management challenges of the department, just to get our act right there. So the committee can have, comfort that the matter is receiving the necessary attention. That's what I would, say by way of appreciating the observations and the comments that the members of the committee have made today on the audit findings action plan of the department. It is work in progress, and I agree that there must be the right time when all of these wrong things or challenges in the department that were picked up in this particular financial year, we give a final report on them to the Oversight Committee. Thank you very much, Chair, and to committee members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DM. I think your remarks certainly add to the agency, the need for speed, considering the agents that we are facing. The matters are very urgent. We need the department like yesterday. The matters are very urgent. What we need to review the organizational structure. We need to fill the post, especially the critical post, which are vacant. Amongst them are those two DTGs whose process is underway to fill them, and the post in the internal audit unit. And we are told that they will try to get the service provider for 12 months to assist whilst filling the post. Let's hope that by the time the service provider exits, the post would have been filled, because what the service provider must be tied to is the transfer of skills. What's the point of having a service provider who moves in and moves out and leaves nothing behind? So as part of the contract must be the transfer of skills. But for the transfer of skills to happen, there must be people to receive the transfer of skills. Otherwise, the service provider would not have assisted the department in any way with the amount of money that would have been spent. And on the consequence management, we're happy that something is happening, and the DG is really acting on those. I think the DG will take your commitment. One, we're happy you have produced the action audit plan, very comprehensive, touching on all areas that were identified by the DG, by the AG in the last few years. And you have converted those audit queries into an audit action plan. And so we hope that we will not have the repeat findings going forward. And maybe next 2022, 2023, you deliver your first clean audit. It's possible. You are just a small department providing service, taking money from Treasury and giving it to the military veterans in the form of this service or that service. So it should be easy. There shouldn't be any difficulty at all. So I think the DM has really given us the remarks that I'm comfortable to accept them as closing the discussion on this issue. What remains for me is to thank you, DG. There's a breath of fresh air, I must say. Maybe if you have not heard that, I'm saying you must know it. There's a breath of fresh air. Please continue along the lines, but be careful of the speed because the speed kills. But at the same time, address the agency because it's critical we get this right as quickly as possible. Dichi, thank you very much. And
thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. And I wish to thank your team as well. I'm sure we can release you. But before we release you, there's a correspondence. Maybe you want us to transact, to deal with this correspondence in your presence. It's signed by the minister. The DM is in the meeting. I think DM can handle the correspondence. Let me release you, DG.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Chairperson, just before you release the DG.
Okay, DG, my apologies. Yes, Mr. Murray.
There's just two issues that I want to raise that obviously will have an effect on obviously not the 2021, but certainly 21-22 financial year. The first one is obviously those litigations, and all that I'm raising it so that the DG can give us feedback in due course, maybe at our next meeting. That's the one. The other one is the whole call up of military veterans to 14 Psi. That we know that there was official correspondence and there was expectations created amongst the military veterans, and I believe that some of them are not paid yet. The other one is the so-called case where the minister and the deputy minister were not allowed to leave the hotel with the military veterans. I believe that there's a litigation going on because those military veterans are still there, and that facility is not being paid by the Department of Military Veterans. Now, that is a court case at the moment, and there was appeals board and a final appeals board that has came out against the minister and the Department of Military Veterans. So I don't know if the DG can give feedback now or whether she wants to take her time and give us proper feedback on these cases. Thank you very much, because that will certainly have an impact on point C on the agenda. And seeing that you are releasing the DG now, that's why I'm just raising that now. Thank you.
All right, DG, a quick response. If you need time, please indicate.
Thank you, Chair. We'll follow what the member has raised, that we must be provided more time to deal with the matter and come back to the committee with a report.
I think I will accept that. How soon can you give us the report on the functionality of the external audit team? A week is not too much. In writing, we'll see when we deal with it as a committee. A week or two?
Should be more.
2 weeks, Chairperson.
2
weeks. A month.
2. All right, 2 months. Okay, it's fine. We give you until the end.
No,
of the
Chair, 2 weeks is enough. 2 weeks is enough.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, 2 weeks.
Yes, Chairperson.
Committee to 2 weeks. All right, colleagues, thank you very much, and you are free to exit the system. We now want to move to the correspondence. It's a new matter, but we agreed that we will fit it in before the minutes.
Thanks, Chairperson.
Just a question, in terms of the agenda, are we not dealing with B and C?
With that?
On the agenda, 3A we have dealt now with. Do we not deal with B and C? They
were part of the presentation.
But the B is a report back specifically. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. So it's not AGSA specifically getting feedback, and then obviously C is I assumed that was cases of other fraud, corruption, and consequence management. I thought they're going to separately report on all those fraud and corruption cases.
No, but let me hear if I'm wrong, Mr. Marais. Did you are still in the meeting? I thought they were incorporated in the presentation. Did you?
No, she's gone.
She's gone.
Yes, Chairperson, okay. They were part of the presentation, all inclusive in the detailed presentation, Chairperson.
Correct. Yeah, I saw it. Unless there are specific cases, Marais, that you want to do a follow-up on, please, you are free to indicate them to me. I will then send them to the officials, to the DG.
Okay. I have now mentioned those, so that'll help. And so it's those 3-4 cases that I've mentioned. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Thank you so much. I'm sorry not to have indicated that the report was inclusive of all those 3 items. All right. Thank you, DG and team. Right, colleagues. Let's then deal with the letter. Brian, the letter says you are invited to a strat plan of the Department of Military Veterans. What's the date? 24th or 25th?
It's coming Friday, the 25th.
It's in within 2 days, Chair, on the 25th. That is Friday.
Yes, Mr. Marais, it's an invitation. I thought I should just convey it. It came, it's very late. Well, you know, a strat plan is not something you wake up and stage it. You plan for it well ahead of time.
Correct.
And but those who will be available, let me just get an indication who will be available so that we communicate the names accordingly. Who will be available?
Can I just say it's a pity that we are only invited now, because we know the procedures and the bureaucracy at Parliament. You know, for us to attend that, we must get approval from the chair of chairs.
Yes,
and in terms of budgets and all those. So maybe just a friendly reminder to the minister and the departments, if they even invite us, obviously we should be represented and we should attend things like this. But unfortunately, if we are getting this very late in terms of the protocols, it is basically impossible to get those kind of approvals within a day. And obviously flights as well. We've got tomorrow evening a meeting, so it becomes very, very difficult if we get it a day or two in advance. Thank you.
You are right. It doesn't allow us to factor our own internal processes. Brian, let me just, is it possible, is it still possible, Brian, to, if we get 1 or 2 members who are interested for our application?
Chair, the processes are a bit difficult because it's first the political approval, which is then followed by the financial, which would entail the logistics, the flights, and everything. It would be difficult for me, Chair, to commit that it would be possible for us to do it within a space of a day.
Okay. All right, DM, that's a difficulty we are having because otherwise, if we, I think we're DM. That's colleagues. I can see Dr. Masop, your mic is on. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, yes, Chair. I thought even before DM comes in, perhaps a department should indicate what are the expectations of them from us as the committee. Maybe on the basis of that explanation, you can be able to find a way. For instance, already you are talking of sending 2 people and that. And also for me, this is very much important invitation to be part of the strat plan of the department. But however, what are the expectations given the limitation of short notice? Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, DM, maybe you've heard our concerns in terms of short notice and the impact that has on our own internal planning processes. And then there's this question on the expectation. May I invite you to make a quick comment, DM?
Chair, thank you very much. I must start right away with an apology for the inconvenience caused to the committee members as a result of this late invitation to the strat plan of DMV. We got this yesterday afternoon as we were in the meeting with the minister to sign off the invitation. And of course, we couldn't say no, but the very same, anxiety and stress expressed by members here is what we also went through, because we were very much aware that the notice was making attendance by committee members almost impossible. But hoping that there may be a chance somehow for the committee to be represented, we felt that we should not say no to the department's request, and we signed that request off. And by signing the request off, it says we are expecting the committee to be represented at the strat plan. However, the inconveniences and the logistics implications are what the members are raising. What I am relying on really is just the personal, experience of this undertaking, that the departments will now and again, when they have their strat plan sessions, depending on which strat plan it is in the value chain of that planning process, they would invite the portfolio committee to be represented at the strat plan. In some cases, the invitation would secure the presence of the chair of the committee, and the chair of the committee would make an input or remarks at the beginning of the strat plan, to share with the management of the department the sentiments, the views, the priorities of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee, to make the department aware of what is of utmost importance as far as Parliament is concerned with respect to their work. And of course, share with them, give them, feedback of how their work has been, perceived, how their challenges have been understood by the portfolio committee, and what then the oversight would expect a platform, a forum of that nature, a strat plan session of the department, to prioritize in making sure that we do not have, continuous weaknesses in the work of the department without any solutions. That would be the kind of input that we get from the oversight, input to the strat plan session. So I'm just making these comments, Chair. I am aware that now we are talking almost a very difficult request that the committee must respond to. Thank you, Chair.
But I think you've certainly responded, answered the question. Let me just check people who are around Gauteng who may not require long driving. Colleagues.
Can I make a proposal, Chair?
Yes, Doc.
No, on the basis of the explanation given by UDM, as well as the observation of a short notice, can we allow your office, probably, Chief Whip, you take up the matter, you interact with the people who are responsible for whatever, then you take it from there. But of course, your point for me is valid. Amongst other things, you consider the people who are staying in the area, but that should be dealt with your office. That's my contrary proposal, Chair.
Yes, no, you are right. I'm just taking the advantage of the fact that we are all here, and if I could just get an indication of a colleague who is just not very far, who's available to represent us, I will then factor the administrative processes into the whole thing. Any indication? I don't see. I'm looking at all the members. I know more or less where they stay, and it doesn't look like there is anyone who's close to the place. All right, colleagues, if there is anyone who will happen to be in Joburg, in Gauteng during this time and would be willing to represent us, please give me a shout. I will then communicate this to the accordingly. Communicate to the department and ensure that we attend to the administrative aspect of it. Okay, DM, thank you very much. If DM we are not there, it will not be out of failure of trying. It would be because we are presented with an impossibility. Please accept that, DM.
Chairperson, that is really respected, and I understand the inconvenience we have created to the committee members. Our apology.
Thank you so much, DM. DM, wish you good luck as you prepare for the start of the new year, of the new financial year with the department. It's a big task lying ahead, but at least the starting point is to identify the challenges. You have done it very well. The next thing now is to fix them. And there are resources available to fix them. So it's upon you to deliver. This should be 2022 and 2023 should be the year of delivery, DM, please.
Chairperson, thank you very much once again for the opportunity to interact with the committee, and your instructions are well received. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DM. So DM, we don't want to delay you any further than this. Please convey our appreciation to the minister. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DM. Let's deal with the minutes. How many, Brian, owing you, how many, 2, 3 sets?
It is 3.
3 sets. All right. Please flight the first set. Right. This is the first set. This was the attendance. All right. Okay. Right till the end. That's the first page. See if there are any corrections. That's the first page. We're dealing with the ministerial task team report there on Hebron. Right, the next page is page 3. SASPRA's response. Go down to the next page. And then it was the procurement issues. Right, go down in respect of the thing of the heparon, payment for the interferon, how much we had paid, how much was still outstanding at the time, outstanding issues, recommendation, right, and then and the Auditor General's response to the issues, and we closed. Just go to the last page. Sabra came back and Dion and we delivered committee deliberations and we closed. All right, colleagues, these are the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
I move, sir.
Mr. Mare moves. Second.
I second, Chair.
Ms. Pekes, I'm sorry that I will lose you, Ms. Pekes, but please stay on as our alternate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, and then the next set. So the first set is adopted. This is the next set. This is the attendance. Right, go include the attendance. Just go the whole of page 1. Go to right. Okay. The next page, we're dealing with the second, third quarter performance report. Right. Go down. Go down. All right, been put by the DM. All right, go down. And the minister committee deliberations and resolutions will close. Colleagues, are there any corrections? It doesn't look like there's any. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Ubaba Ushelembe moves, seconded.
Chairperson.
Yes, sir.
I think now it's time that we go back to Parliament so that we can see members, because I've noticed that, I mean, no, thank you.
Can I conclude this aspect? I will come back to you.
I second, Chair.
Because seconds. And then the third set. I can see you're tired of, looking on at the system. You want to say now people face to face.
Yeah, you see members are like now getting.
No, I'll come back to that one. Let's conclude this one. Are we retrieving the last set, Brian?
That's correct, Chair.
Brian, we've invested in you, and I also would not want to lose you.
Sorry, Chair. There it is.
Yeah, and you have been very helpful to the team. So this is the minutes of the 16th of February. This is the attendance. All right, just conclude the team. And you write so well, and I never find any challenge with your minutes. And right, continue. If there are any corrections, comrades, colleagues, please indicate. We're on the next page. Any corrections indicate, please? We're on page 3. Continue. Continue. All right, 5th page. Continue. We're going to the last part 1 page. Thank you. Last page or 7. Right, colleagues. I've looked at this. Are there any corrections? All right.
I move.
Mr. Mare moves. Thank you very much, Mr. Mare. Seconded by?
I second, Chairperson.
Mr. Shelembe seconds. All right. Colleagues, so I think we are done. Is there any quick reaction before I thank all of you for the attendance? I think one issue would be to reinstate the discussion on the Heberon. We said when the minister is in a position to come and deal with it. So I will try to, I've not forgotten about that. I'm looking for a time when it would be feasible to deal with it. So that will be the only major item arising from the minutes that requires follow-up from my side. Colleagues,
Thank
thanks.
you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Let's hold thumbs for this afternoon.
All right, colleagues, thank you very much. I think we have concluded the meeting, exhausted all the items, and it remains for me to thank all of you for attendance until we meet this afternoon from 2 o'clock. We hope the Minister of Finance will will come some way in addressing some of our concerns, especially as it relates to defense financial challenges. With that, thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Recording stopped.